Namaskar and welcome to episode number 15 of Pustakalay Wala podcast. But I'm going to change the name of the podcast today to Understanding Consciousness Research or something like that. Something to that effect to better reflect the nature of the material in the podcast. Today is a special day because we are moving away from all the old stuff into a new paper which I have downloaded from Neuroscience of Consciousness Research Journal. This is an open access journal. Anyone can go and download this paper. I'll set up a link. I'll put a link on the video down here and you can read it along with me. This is the first episode of this journey, so strap on. Waving goodbye to contrast. Self-generated hand movements attenuate visual sensitivity. This is the title of the paper. Let's try to unpack that a little bit. It says waving goodbye to contrast. I have no idea what it's saying. Waving goodbye to contrast? No. Colon. Self-generated hand movements attenuate visual sensitivity. Self-generated hand movements is another term for hand movements by your own mind. You are generating that hand movement. Those hand movements attenuate visual sensitivity. Visual sensitivity is reduced when it's your hand that is making the movement. And the writer of the paper are Maddie Wasser, Loring William. I can't pronounce these names. Sorry. So apologies to the writers. Just go and read the paper. These universities are Estonian University, the Belgium, Germany and Estonia. Yeah, 2 Estonians, 1 Belgian, 1 German university. Okay, moving on. I have tried to understand this paper. I haven't understood it completely. I haven't even read the whole paper. I'm just talking about the introduction right now. I haven't understood the introduction completely. The abstract of this paper is kind of explaining a little bit, but not too much. So we won't go through the abstract. We go through the introduction. So they start with talking about a simple movement, very simple movement. Imagine having a drink in a pub. All right. Your eyes fixate on the glass and your arm stretches to grab it. All right. Very simple movement. We do it all the time. You are not bothered at all by the appearance of this long elongated shape in your visual field. Okay, you are sitting in front, looking in front. The glass is on your left. Let's assume a hand moves into your visual field, which is your own hand, your own arm. You are not bothered by it at all because you know it's your hand, right? There is no surprise, right? But now consider the same situation where a similar long elongated shape moves towards your beverage, but it's not your arm. Maybe it's a snake or an arm of a colleague. In this case, you would immediately notice this potentially threatening moving object, right? All of a sudden, whatever you're talking about to your colleague, you'll stop and move, and your attention will move towards this hand movement, right? So there are these 2 different ways in which the mind will process the same similar visual input. The visual input is the same. There is this elongated thing made of flesh moving towards the glass. In one of the case, your attention doesn't even move towards this process, this effect, this thing. You're talking to your friend who's sitting in front of you. In the second case, where it's not your arm, your attention would deviate in a sudden manner, in a startled manner. Who the hell is this? What the hell is this? And you'll maybe even jump back a little bit, right? If it's too sudden and too threatening. So there is this this is a very interesting point. Let's consider this situation, right? First of all, a lot of theories of consciousness right now we're talking about a prediction model of the mind. The brain predicts things before they happen, and then when the things happen, the brain tries to understand it accordingly. That's the nature of a lot of new explanations that is coming in this field. And this is let's consider this process. Your attention, your conscious attention is in a conversation, and there are these subconscious, just a little below full consciousness, subconscious things and events that are happening, where your mind is in fact getting the sensory data. And if you are really mindful of your situation, if you are trained in mindfulness, you might even notice this subconscious change in perception while still be in a conscious conscious conversation with someone else, right? And your mind chooses in that moment to whether to keep that sensory data that came in at a subconscious level or take it up to the conscious level. And that happens in a split second. And it's a great place to understand how the brain does it, because it's all these places where you are moving from subconscious to the conscious. They are really good places for understanding consciousness and how perception occurs and how perception becomes more or less. What are the hierarchy of perception? When is a perception taken from a subconscious level and moved to a conscious state? This moved into a conscious, moved into full consciousness, right? If there were a snake moving towards your glass, all parts of your mind would gravitate towards that new stimulus, that snake. You would in fact forget about the conversation that you were having. You would forget about the thoughts you were having at that moment. Whatever you were thinking, whatever you were noticing, whatever your mood was, whatever your state was, drowsiness or whatever it was, all of those would be truncated in a split second, and you would jump into action suddenly. This is a great place for understanding things. Now, there are a lot of things that I came across that I have no idea about, and I'll just list them. One is called first order sensitivity, metacognitive monitoring. Second order sensitivity, which is also called metacognitive judgments of confidence. All these terms I have no idea about. I'll try to learn tomorrow and come back. That's one thing, right? I'll go a little bit into other things, the brain's ability to predict and attenuate the various sensory consequences of the movements of its own body is well known. So it is well known that it is already known, it is already tested that our own body movements are predicted and attenuated by the mind. Attenuated is just another term for just suppressed, basically. You suppress, the mind suppresses it because it's happening. So it's all based on prediction, right? If everything, so let's say if I am talking to you, we are sitting on a table, facing each other, and I want to move. I'm making a point. I'm trying to make a point. So I try to move towards you, and I grab the table, and I move towards you, and I continue the point. Right? Now imagine, as I grab the table, my hand goes through the table. The table is just made of virtual reality, whatever, and my hand moves through the table. All of a sudden, this simple movement, which would have gone unnoticed by both of us, especially by me, which because my mind is on the point, I'm trying to make a point, I'm trying to move closer to you in order to grab more of your attention or whatever, and my mind is on that, and I make this almost automatic movement of grabbing the table and moving forward. But as my hand is doing that, it goes through the table, and all of a sudden, all the predictions of the sensation, the possible sensation that were going to happen, all that prediction broke down. The prediction was thrown away, and there was such a big prediction error that happened. Okay, a prediction error that happened, that propagated into conscious thought, right? Because the mind made a prediction and the prediction failed. This theory of active inference, which is also called prediction error minimization theory. This states that, so basically what we are trying to do, what this paper is trying to do, is trying to understand. We all know that a lot of researchers know that this is happening. The mind is making a prediction and blah blah blah, but we don't know the mechanism. So we are trying to understand the mechanism. A mechanism is trying to be understood. And this is one way of trying to understand that, as the prediction error is tried to be minimized, and if there is a big prediction error, the data moves into, the sensation moves into conscious attention. This is the start of it. I don't know. I'm really confused about a lot of terms and stuff like that. And today's 10 minutes is already up. So this is just an introduction to the new paper. I'll be much more prepared tomorrow. I'll need to read a lot more things to be prepared. But this is very fascinating. This is fascinating because, first of all, this is just a simple movement, very simple place where we are trying to understand consciousness. We are not going into psychedelics, which is too much information for research yet. Psychedelics are so strong on conscious experience that we have been discussing in the last few episodes, that it's always going to be this key. Whatever people try to get out of, whatever predictions people try to get out of, whatever conclusions people try to make from the data of psychedelic research is going to be too premature is the word I try to find. But something like this is simple enough and interesting enough and and there is a lot of things to be understood. And the most important, this is the most important thing, the most interesting and the important part of it is how they try to extract new data from this. So in this case, what they're using is virtual reality devices, which, when your hand moves toward the glass, the virtual reality hand tracker will precisely track the hand and remove that hand from your visual field, right? And whatever, and this is a very interesting experimentation way of planes. Oh my god, planes. Listen to the sound of planes going through. All right, I'll stop here. See you tomorrow with much better understanding of what is happening. Thanks for listening.